Daniel, so good to see you. Today we are talking about whether you're taking on too much risk. There are four signs that you just might be. Risk, of course, isn't just about numbers. It's about how you feel when market conditions change. So let's talk through four signs that you may be taking on more risk than you should. Sign number one, you are checking your accounts constantly. But how often is too often?
Well, it depends on the individual, but reality is if you're checking your accounts too often, daily, that's a sure sign you don't have any kind of plan.
Right.
You know, doing the what they call the staying on top of it doesn't really mitigate the fear and the anxiety. Sometimes it can make it worse. So
Mm.
we always tell folks if you're checking it more than maybe once a week, and you have what we call the watching account syndrome, then you probably don't have a strategic plan.
Right.
Real quick example: client come in, do it yourselfer, lifelong, didn't really have a plan. He was a referral, he and his wife Melissa, and Paul was had all these graphs and things. He went through his whole process about 20 minutes, and at the end of it, I just asked him, "What's your plan?" And he looked at me and was honest and said, "I don't have one." So I think having a written plan will eliminate a lot of that account watching.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, sign number two, ask yourself, do you lose sleep when the market drops? That being said, it's so hard to tune out the headlines sometimes.
It is. The white noise can be a big problem.
Yes.
Successful investing has very little to do with, market corrections or changes. It's more about having a goal, time horizon, and also the risk tolerance. That short-term performance isn't something that people should be chasing, but a lot of people do out of emotion. But, let's be honest, we're humans. We run a lot of our decision making on negativity a lot of times. MIT did a study and found that negative news travels 70 times faster than positive, and that's helped us through mankind, to mitigate, survival and
Yeah,
threats and
right.
danger. But now, just because you have all this information doesn't mean it's going to be something you're going to be able to use. Because the reality is, if you're depending on the stock market to give you peace of mind in your financial future, you're already trying to utilize something that's completely out of control.
Yeah.
So get a plan, stick to the plan, stay decisive.
You bring up such a good point. As humans, we are driven by our emotions as opposed to data, which brings us to sign number three. You've made panic-driven decisions before, and this is something I love talking about, Daniel. I know you do too. How our emotions can
Oh
drive
yeah.
us to make the exact opposite financial decisions of what we should be doing.
I've seen this happen so many
Yeah,
times. You start off optimistic, right? You start off really optimistic investing, and then you get excited, you get thrilled because the market's going up, and then you get euphoria. And in euphoria, you start buying and taking more risk than you probably should because now you're a financial genius. And all of a sudden, what happens to the markets? Markets do what they do. They've been doing for 100 years. It starts correcting, it comes down. And then all of a sudden, it comes to the bottom. Now you're despondent. And now you think you're a fool. Well, neither
right.
one of those are true. You're not a genius. You're not a fool. But what happens is if you draw a line from optimism to optimism, we call that the dollar cost average line. It takes emotion out of investing. You're just
Right.
consistently putting money in. So I think it's really hard, again, as humans, to take emotion out of it. But if you have a strategic plan and you're working with someone that can keep you on track to take that plan to fruition, I think it helps take a lot of emotion out of investing.
Right. And that brings us to the last line, which is also related. Of course, you feel pressure to chase returns, aka FOMO.
Yeah, this takes discipline out of the equation and more of the reaction to what's happening. Short-term
Mm.
performance, we're getting a lot of this right now with AI. Everybody's chasing the AI implosion or upheaval, which is not a bad thing necessarily. But I think I always ask someone who's chasing performance or chasing the FOMO is, what's your number? Tell me what you need to retire to feel safe. And a lot of times it's some arbitrary number. But it's not about how much money I have, it's how much income it's going to produce. What's the overall goal for that account? Because no matter whether you're doom scrolling or you can't sleep at night because you have insomnia, or you're running your accounts on emotions, I think having a written plan of where your goals and your your discipline is going to lie, and no matter the upheaval of the market, I think alleviates a lot of these issues that I see people face.
Right, right. So that brings us to my last question, Daniel. How can working with a financial advisor help us stay in line with our risk tolerance?
You know, many investors are comfortable with risk until the market goes down, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
having a financial advisor with, we utilize portfolio scenarios, we have software and real world conversations too. You know, taking risk emotionally or financially may look good on paper, but every individual is different. May not be comfortable for you. And so I think no matter the market swings, if you have a financial advisor that you're working with that you can bounce questions off of, it alleviates a lot of that stress that a lot of times people have in their heads, and you have it down on paper. And for us, it's a blessing to be able to sit down with people and put their mind at ease. We still have clients that like to stay up at night and look at their accounts, but when they call us, we say, hey, listen, let's go first. Call us if you've got concerns. Let's have a conversation. And second, let's go back to the plan. And
yeah.
9 times out of 10, that alleviates that. So
Right.
for us, I think a financial advisor earns their weight in gold for those very reasons.
Right. Knowing that you have a plan where the volatility is kind of built into it. And even as we're talking about emotional investing, capitalizing on those buying opportunities is so
Absolutely.
important and allows us to kind of leave things alone. Because as humans, we tend to kind of, as we said, make wrong decisions every now and then. So, Daniel, if somebody would like to sit down with you, create that plan that is built on data, not on emotions, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, you can reach us at aprfinancialgroup.com. You can also check us out on YouTube at APR Financial Group. And you can also give us a call at 704-552-3933.
Great. Daniel, thank you.
Thank you so much.